This is wickedness. So this man left his house on the 3rd of July to go and collect money that his friend was owing him. And that was how he went missing. 6 days later, his body was found in a gutter with multiple stab injuries, visibly beaten, wrapped up in a blanket, and burnt beyond recognition. What really happened to Stephen King Amoah? Who killed him? And why did they do it in such a wicked way? You see, stories like these are why we tell people when it comes to money, when it comes to the business of money, be careful who you deal with. Money turns people into monsters. Money can make your best friend into your worst enemy. Money can turn your favorite person into the person you should fear the most. Because there's nothing anybody wants to tell me. This is because of money. This young man was killed because of his own money. You know why? Because his body was found wrapped in a blanket. No armed robber, no thief move around with a blanket. For him to be wrapped up in a blanket, for his body to be wrapped up in a blanket, it means he was killed in a home. He was killed in a house. And I don't see him going into the house of a total stranger. He would have only gone to a house he was invited to. And most definitely a house of somebody he trusted. So what really happened? Because we've seen this multiple times. This is not the first of its kind. So what really happened? 38-year-old Stephen King Amoah was a Ghanaian immigration service officer who joined the force in 2013. A few years down the line, he met and married a police officer woman, and together they had 2 sons. Stephen is very passionate about sports and also a music lover, because in some of his videos you could see him sing in bars and maybe karaoke, even performing in the studio and with a live band. Now, Stephen is said to have had a friend named Bright. And somewhere along the line in their friendships, because videos show them together watching a football match of some sort. So it is said that according to the narrative, Stephen gave Bright the sum of 200,000 Ghanaian shillings. And that the money was for Bright to give a group of people some kind of job. The money was for some arrangement that Bright was supposed to give people jobs with that money. However, Bright failed on his own part of the deal and could not deliver. So therefore, he was meant to return the money back to Stephen. And this is where the story begins. Because on the 3rd of July 2025, Stephen was in his house minding his own business when he got a phone call from Bright asking him to come over to collect his money. And that was when Stephen got up, told his nephew, and left the house. Unfortunately, this will be the last time they will see Stephen alive. Now, this is where they started noticing things was turning left. Stephen's wife, who was in Kumasi, in a different place, they weren't staying together at this time, got a text message from Stephen's phone telling her that, hey, what's up, babe? I'm home now and I'm home safe. I've gotten the money. And the wife began to suspect the text message. It just did not feel like her husband. Something about the text message did not make sense. And I personally feel like the part of the text message that did not make sense be the part where Stephen says, I'm back home safe. For that part of the message to be texted, it's suspicious. And that was when the wife picked up the phone to call Stephen to be like, okay, what's going on? What do you mean you're back home safe? What needs you to come back safe? From where? And the wife couldn't get hold of Stephen. And that's how she called the nephew, who was with Stephen at the time, to tell the nephew that, see, this is what happened. I got a text message and I'm unable to call him. Is he home? Is he there with you? And the nephew says, no, that Stephen is not home. And that was how they deemed him a missing person. When they couldn't get hold of Stephen, the next day they went to the police station to report him a missing person. And the police did not waste time to act up and start looking for answers. And basically, it led them to Bright, because before Stephen left the house, he told the nephew where he was going. People knew that Bright was owing him money, and that was where he was headed to before he vanished. So the police pretty much picked up Bright, and Bright was the #1 suspect, because who else would be the #1 suspect? The funny thing about this whole thing is Bright and Stephen lived in the same neighborhood. Like, it wasn't far off. where he was going to collect the money, because what's funny is that Bright actually texted Steven to come collect the money, even took a picture of the money to let him know that the money is in cash, to come take it. And I think that was why he went there to take it, only to vanish from there. When they picked up Bright, Bright basically denied any involvement in the man's disappearance. Mind you, at the time Bright was picked up, they had not found Steven's body. So Bright was picked up. He is claiming that he doesn't know anything about Steven's disappearance, and that when Steven came to him, he actually did give Steven 200,000 Ghanaian cedis and extra 300 for Steven to keep for him. And that was Bright's narrative. That was Bright's defense. That was all he knew. However, the police had to still hold him in custody, because at that point, he is the only suspect. And so they had to hold him until they find Steven. Flyers were being posted about Steven going missing. Even some around the time, I remember getting our viewers from Ghana were sending me pictures of Steven to say, oh, he's a missing person. Make a post about him that he has gone missing. Believably missing with the sum of 500,000 Ghanaian cedis. So imagine that he was assuming he had collected the money, and on his way back, that's when he vanished. He was with the money. So Steven was a missing person up until the 9th of July, when they eventually found his body in a gutter far away at a distant place, wrapped up in a blanket, and it was clear that he had suffered multiple stab injuries, beaten with a blunt object, and set ablaze. The police had gotten that report of the body found, because they usually do get reports, and so the officers called Steven's family to come and identify, because again, naturally, when a body is found and a family has made a missing person report, it's natural for police to be like, okay, we found somebody, can you come and identify? And if it's a match, it's a match. If it's not, then you keep on looking for the person. So when the unnamed body found on a gutter that was burnt was reported to the police, they quickly called Steven's family to come and identify it, since their loved one is missing. And that was how they were able to identify the badly burnt body to be that of Steven. And at this point, Steven went from a missing person to a murder case. Steven has been killed. So, who killed him and why did they do it? Again, the finger pointing comes back to Bright. Either Bright knows who did it, or he did it along with other people. Because the way Steven was killed, I don't think it takes one person to do it. It's not easy for one person to have done it, unless when Steven came to his house, he gave him a drink since they were friends, and he drugged Steven, and from then on, he would be able to carry out the act. Drive the body down there to drop it and burn it there. But if that was not the way he did it, Steven, being a grown-ass man, would be difficult for one person to take down like that, which is possible that maybe Bright had help. Again, it would have been believable that Steven was kidnapped on his way back home after taking the money by random people. But it's the same neighborhood. The same place where he lives is the same place where Bright lives. So it wouldn't have been such a far distance that somebody will pick him up along the way. And even if it was a far distance, who would get the information that he's with that amount of money? Because his body was not found with the money. So where's the 500,000 Ghanaian cedis that he's supposed to be with? Because Bright said he gave it to him. So where's the money? Where is the money? It's not with him. So who knew about the money apart from the two of them? Only Bright knew. So it's either Bright did not want to pay and decided to get rid of him, or Bright gave him the money and then set him up to be killed by people who would retrieve it and split it among themselves. And I don't think that's the case, because if Bright actually did have the money, he would have most likely paid it back without all this drama. I don't think it's worth it. As it stands now, Bright has been taken to court, and the court are going through the case. However, the police are still investigating, because they are trying to connect Bright to the death of Steven as much as they could. It's one thing to find his body, it's one thing to say he gave him the money, but at the same time, there got to be a connection. Right now, the police are asking people for any information. Anybody who knows anything should come out and speak, because so far, this is all they have. Steven comes to collect money from his friend Bright, vanishes. 6 days later, his body is found in the gutter with no money. But this is one thing, this is why I feel like, and this is what I will say, the only reason why I feel like is Bright basically is because Steven's body was wrapped up in a blanket. And that is all the clue that you need to know that he was killed in a house, in a home, in a bedroom, because no highway robber, no, let's assume he even sets Steven up on his way going and people will kidnap him. Where did the blanket come out from? How many armed robbers go around with blankets? How many armed robbers or thieves do you see go to rob somebody with a blanket? The fact that Steven's body was wrapped in a blanket shows that he was killed in a house, wrapped up in that blanket, brought there and set ablaze there. That is what it is. So whose house did he go to? Bright's house. All the police just need to do is go to Bright's house, check for his blankets, compare the blanket materials. Usually people, if it's a big house, they would have similar blankets in a way, or one room will be missing a blanket. It's just pretty much what it is. That is just what it is. Blanket gives it all away. The blanket shows that he went to someone's house and was killed in someone's house. If it was he was wrapped in a cotton, that would be the same thing, someone's house. If he was just found there on the road with no blanket, yes, there will be suspicion of highway or somebody picked him up or he was accosted along the road. But that blanket has answered the questions that the police need to know. The blanket is the proof in the pudding. Steven was killed in someone's house. And the only person that we know whose house he went to was Bright's. But I guess the police need more than just the blanket. Somebody should just, who saw something should say something. Personally, I feel like with a good lawyer, they have enough case to tie him down. Basically, I just feel so. Searching his house would also give them a clue. His phone number would also give them a clue. And also, I also learned that when they asked him where and how he got the money to pay Steven back, even with the extra 300,000 Ghanaian cedi, Bright could not explain how and where he got the money from. So money would be the lead. So where did you get the money from? Who did you collect it from? Who did you transfer it to? Those are the things that would eventually implicate him. It's just unfortunate. I mean, the picture is clear. I don't know what Bright was thinking though. I guess he probably thought Steven would never be found, or if he's found, he will not be recognized. That is how they usually burn the bodies, to disfigure the victim's face. And it's just unfortunate. This is what happens when money is involved. It turns your friends to your very worst enemies. Let's just stay tuned. If there's an update to this case, I will let you guys know. So stay following, stay subscribed, and turn on your notification button, because I don't think this case is over.